What's up, everybody? I'm the MMA Casual, and today we're doing another UFC fighter tier list. I did one a few months ago, but now, equipment's been upgraded. The channel's growing a little, so I want to do another. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to try to run through this because I want to go through as many fighters as I can. But what I want you to do is be sure to let me know with what you disagree with. All right, I'm going to say some controversial stuff in this video. And again, I'm moving pretty quick, so maybe I don't justify enough for you, but let's get right to it. Anyway, so we have the Legends tier, which of course these are guys who have changed the game completely in their time in mixed martial arts and combat sports in general. We have the Hall of Famers, which of course are a step below the legends, maybe guys who had absolutely phenomenal careers but just aren't legendary, right? We're not going to call them the legends. We have the so close, those guys that maybe aren't Hall of Famers but guys that to us will remember for a lifetime, the fans, their fans. We have the decent guys, just decent fighters. They'll be forgotten in 5 to 10 years, but in their time being in the UFC, we're definitely relevant. The sorry pals, those are the guys you're going to forget. And of course, just because I have Jeremy Stevens in the mix, we have the who the fuck is that guy? And that's going to be our last category, which it's exactly what it says. Who the fuck is that guy? So let's start off. Alexander Gustafsson, and I want to set the pace to start off. Alexander Gustafsson, a solid career. Most notable for giving John Jones two of the toughest fights in his career. With that being said, he's not a Hall of Famer to me. A great fighter in the light heavyweight division. I'm going to put him at so close. And I think these first ones are going to really set the pace here. I think there's going to be some Hall of Famers who don't make it into my Hall of Fame category. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. All right, so next up, Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski, to me, is easily a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a legend just yet, and you're going to see that criteria for legend. I think he's very close. If he would have beat Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title, I think he walks into the legend category, and I think he'll end his career as a legend. But right now, he's a Hall of Famer, and again, we're doing these rankings in real time. So it's not what Volkanovski, what I think he's going to end his career with. I think it's what he is right now. Demetrius Johnson. And again, setting the pace. That's a legend right there. That's one of the best champions the UFC's ever seen. One of the most technical fighters we've ever seen. The best flyweight to ever live. Unfortunately, he wasn't as marketable as we would have liked him to be. Dana White kind of set him up for failure. Unfortunately, he got traded, the first ever MMA trade. He got traded for freaking Ben Askren. But with that being said, he's in my top 3 best fighters of all time. He's still doing it today at the 1. He's a legend of the sport. Ben Askren. Ben Askren, if we're talking about Bellator, we're talking about his, prior to UFC, I would say he's so close, maybe even in their Hall of Fame. But in general, I think it's safe to say the general consensus for Ben Askren is that he's kind of a jackass. He doesn't have a good physique. He's just a wrestler, not a full mixed martial artist. He's most memorable for being a highlight reel, the best knockout in the last decade, really, and becoming Masvidal's highlight reel. And he slingshotted Masvidal into superstardom and gave him the opportunities he ultimately got. With that being said, I'm going to say that I don't think we forget Ben Askren, but I'm just going to say he was decent, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because of his Bellator career. But to be honest, I could even sneak him into the sorry pal. He had that debatable win against Robbie Lawler, but other than that, Ben Askren's just kind of a jackass we like to watch and make fun of. That's about it. Volkov. Okay, so this is a serious contender, and I think I'm gonna leave him right next to decent because right now he hasn't done anything too notable. He's a real deal heavyweight. He is a contender. He's moving on up. A hell of a win against Tai Tuivasa recently, and I think he has a lot to prove and a lot of potential. But for right now, I'm gonna leave him at decent, and I think that's fair to say. Alistair Overeem. So Alistair Overeem, and this is again one of those that it's gonna really determine what direction I move with Hall of Fame and so close. I think you put him in the Hall of Fame. And the reason you put him in the Hall of Fame is not necessarily his record or let's say anybody he's beat specifically, but this is a guy who was in like 3 different eras of mixed martial arts. I mean, he fought in Pride where, he was abusing steroids and, he's natty, eating horse meat. But the guy's been around for so long. He was honestly one of the best to ever do it at that time, right? He walks into this era of MMA. He got a little older. He didn't perform the same. But because he's been around for so long and he's contended against different eras of mixed martial arts, and just because I have him as one of those pioneers, the early guys, I'm going to put him in the Hall of Fame because he really has earned that title. Sean Strickland. For me, Sean Strickland, I mean, he has been so impressive recently. I mean, come on, he beat Israel Adesanya, one of the best middleweights of all time. He's now champion. And He's very outspoken. I think he's going to sell fights from here on out. I think if he gets a few defenses, he really makes a name for himself in that division. I think you put him as a Hall of Famer, but for now, I'm going to leave him right next to Gustafsson. I don't think it's inappropriate. Yes, he is champion, but other than being champion right now, there's not much to say about his career other than that he's a very experienced UFC fighter. That's all I have to say about Sean Strickland. Israel Adesanya, I think I have to go Hall of Fame. He's not a legend to me. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, if I have Volk as a Hall of Famer, Adesanya is a Hall of Famer. Adesanya, to me, is the second best middleweight of all time. There's still a lot of potential. He's taking his time off after that rough loss to Sean Strickland. But for me, I mean, Israel Adesanya was on track to being the best middleweight of all time. I mean, his resume speaks for himself. Very unorthodox. He really is the style bender. He's done so much for the sport. Unfortunately, he lost to Alex Pereira in the UFC. He gets that win back, but now he loses to Sean Strickland. So now we see a little bit of a rocky road for him. If he beats Sean Strickland and now fights Duplessis, fights let's say Jared Cannonier again and beats him, I think you have to say he's a legend. He's just killing that division. But since he lost to Sean Strickland, I'm going to keep him at the Hall of Fame. Let's see what he does when he comes back. But for right now, I like him right there. And again, just setting the pace of where everyone's at. Aljamain Sterling, and I think a lot of people are going to disagree, but I'm actually going to so close. Reason I'm going to so close is because of how he became a champion and kind of the toss-ups he had. It's safe to say that Aljamain Sterling, he's a lucky guy. If I were him, I'd play the lottery often, right? He becomes champion off an illegal knee, and then even after that, he wins a close decision against Petr Yan that could have gone either way. Then he fights TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw has a messed up shoulder. And mind you, these are real deal names. I give him a lot of credit because he beats Henry Cejudo. But again, someone could say that Henry Cejudo's not in his prime and he's coming off of somewhat retirement. So like everything has really been set up for Aljamain Sterling. He recently lost to Sean O'Malley. I think if he beat Sean O'Malley, that would have been his first win that it's like, all right, the playing field is even. Up to now, I think he's had a few little pushes into superstardom. You have to give credit when it's due. He's a fantastic fighter. I think he's a big bantamweight, hard for him to make weight, a class act, very talented. But with that being said, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer just yet. I think he has some more to do, and now he's going to step into the featherweight division. I think ultimately he ends up as a Hall of Famer. For me, it's so close. Dennis Siver. I saw this name and I left it because I felt like a lot of you don't even know who that is. But for those of you who don't, Dennis Siver is a featherweight who fought for quite a few years in the UFC. But he's most notable for slingshotting Conor McGregor into the fight against Chad Mendes. So after Conor McGregor beats Dennis Siver, he goes and fights Chad Mendes for the interim belt of the featherweight division, and then ultimately beats Chad Mendes and fights Jose Aldo. So Dennis Siver I thought was great to put here because I think it's really appropriate. Forget decent, forget sorry, pal. I think most of you, if you're kind of a casual, and I mean, if you're on my channel, I want you to be a casual. This is the MMA Casual Show over here. Who the fuck is that guy? I'm going to leave Dennis Siver at the who the fuck is that guy? Max Holloway. Max Holloway, I think it's safe to say, is a Hall of Famer. I think that's an easy pick for me. If Alexander Volkanovski did not exist, Max Holloway would easily be the featherweight champion. I mean, they fought 3 times. Every time he loses to Alexander Volkanovski, he leaves, kills everybody else in the division, proves himself, and has to fight him again. I don't know up to what point he's going to do this. Unfortunately, Volkanovski is his kryptonite, but Max Holloway is champion material. He's been around for a long time. He's also a class act, an absolutely fantastic mixed martial artist, and he's earned that Hall of Fame spot, if you ask me. Anderson Silva, legend. One of the longest championship reigns, longest title streak in history. As unorthodox as they come, there was no one like him up to that point. I think Israel Adesanya does a great job of imitating Anderson Silva's style in the new era. But Anderson Silva is 1 in a million, and he was back then. He still is now. Anderson Silva, you got to give him the credit. He stands very close to Demetrius Johnson up there in the legend tier. Artem Lobov. So I'm going to put him in sorry, pal. For those of you who don't know, he kind of got into the mix because he was a training partner of Conor McGregor. He started on The Ultimate Fighter. Definitely a guy who bangs it out. He had a few good wins in the UFC. Ultimately, it didn't work out. He goes to BKFC. He started bare knuckle. I thought he was more entertaining over there. So in combat sports, he did have a little bit of a career. Ultimately, he got into an argument, or there was some financial issues and business issues with Conor McGregor. This guy fell off the freaking face of the earth. If you ask me, in 10 years, nobody, no new fans or any fans will know who the hell Lobov is. So he's right there. Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley right now, just because of his rise, how he could promote. I guess I'm a little biased if I put him there in Hall of Fame, but for now I'm going to put him in So Close. I think it's safe to say. He comes into the Dana White Contender Series. He's taken out a few legends already in the bantamweight division. He becomes champ. It's absolutely majestic how he's done it. The run has been great. I think he needs a defense or two, and then I could say Hall of Fame for him. With the criteria I have, I mean, I can't put Sean O'Malley with Volk, Overeem, Adesanya, and Holloway right now. I think O'Malley's okay with So Close. Right now, I have 3 champs there. I think it's appropriate. Gustafsson might not even belong there, but I'm okay with So Close for him. Bilal Muhammad, I'm going to decent. And it's hard to put him next to Ben Askren and Volkov because Bilal Muhammad has a lot of potential. I think he could easily step into So Close and Hall of Fame, but he hasn't been given the opportunity. I think Bilal Muhammad's a little hard to market. He's not as marketable as people would like. His last 2 fights, Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns, he proved himself as an exciting fighter. I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a title shot. But right now, with his progress in the UFC and who he's beat, it's a decent fighter. I don't think there's any more to say about that. He needs a title to really step up into those ranks. Bobby Green, I'm kind of going to do the same thing. Decent. I'm not going to put him down there with Lobov. Bobby Green's a killer, a great striker. He's been in the game for a long time. I think his career is capped out, even though he has shown improvements in the last couple of fights. But I think we're not going to progress anymore. I think when it's all said and done, we're going to remember Bobby Green as a decent fighter, a decent contender, but it just wasn't there for him. It never was, and maybe it never will be. That's where I have him. Brandon Moreno, I'm going to also put him at So Close. I don't have him as a Hall of Famer. 2-time champ in the bantamweight division. He had that great feud with Davison Figueiredo, 4 different fights. I love his line after one of his earlier fights where he's like, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day I will be champion. Hey man, he foresaw that. He made a statement in the UFC, a statement for Mexico. He's a class act. He's genuine. He's authentic. Super nice guy. But with that being said, I don't think he's done enough to be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have any title defenses. Just lost the belt again to Pantoja. So I'm comfortable with Brandon Moreno standing next to Sterling O'Malley and Strickland. Brandon Schaub. So it's funny. I left him here because a lot of people hate Brendan Schaub. And I don't really understand it because, yeah, he can make some dumb comments sometimes and people don't like that. His comedy is not good, but he gets a lot of hate. And I think he doesn't really deserve it. I mean, the guy's just a kind of a Joe Schmo almost in this industry, gives his opinion, has a podcast. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he means well. But Brendan Schaub, anyone who needs to know, he came in through the Ultimate Fighter. He had an okay career. He beat Crow Cop, which I think that was huge for him. But other than that, his MMA career wasn't all that. With that being said, if it wasn't for his podcast, his comedy, and just his actual celebrity status, I think he stands comfortably in Sorry Pal. There's nothing special to say about Brendan Schaub other than what he's doing now. But if we go back into his career, there's nothing much to it. All right, Brock Lesnar. And this one's going to be a hot take. I'm not a fan of Brock Lesnar in the UFC. I know it was a different era. He was a freaking monster. He comes from the WWE. He steps in. He has like 2 fights before they give him a championship fight. He becomes champion. This, that, or the other. There's no adversity in his career. Easily becomes champ and then takes off to the WWE. It wasn't a long career. I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He's definitely one of the pioneers as well, and he brought a lot of popularity to the sport in its time. But I'm going to put him at So Close just out of respect to what he did for the sport in the early days. But when we're talking mixed martial arts, I mean, there's no reason to have that gentleman in the Hall of Fame or Legends. It's just the facts. Hamza Chimaev. Hamza Chimaev up to this point has been a lot of hype, and he's backed up the hype. Not as much as I think a lot of people want him to back it up, but he's showing a lot of improvements. He's beat Kamaru Usman, Kevin Holland. He just moved up to the middleweight division from welterweight, so there's a lot to see. He does have a lot of potential, and ultimately, I think he can finish in the Hall of Fame or So Close. But as of right now, I think it's very inconsistent of me to give him anything other than decent. So Hamza Chimaev, I'm okay with leaving him next to Bilal Muhammad. Bobby Green, as far as what he's done in his career. If we're talking skill set, I would put him a little higher, but as for what he's done for mixed martial arts and in his career, I think he's fine and decent. Cain Velasquez, I'm gonna put in so close. I think it's fair to say the Cardio King was champ. I have a lot of respect for this guy. It's a shame what's happening in his personal life right now, and I hope he beats all of this. But there was no one like Cain Velasquez in the heavyweight division. I still think there's no one like Cain Velasquez in the heavyweight division. I think his MMA career was a little short-lived, but with that being said, Cain Velasquez was a big deal in MMA. I mean, he took out Brock Lesnar, so. Yoel Romero for me, I love him. He's Cuban, a hell of a fighter, fun to watch. He was a contender, a serious contender at that, a great wrestler, but nothing too notable in his career. He did have a chance or two at the belt. There's not much to say about him other than he's a genetic phenom. I'm going to leave him at decent. Unfortunately, I think his career, there wasn't enough done in his career to put him at so close Hall of Famer legends. I like him right there next to Hamzat. Bobby Green, some people might think it's a little disrespectful. I mean, it's a close one. I can't put him in so close, but then I'm looking at the company up there. I made the criteria a little tough, so I'm okay with Yoel Romero at decent. Chael Sonnen, I'm going to put at so close. So close because he was really almost champion. That was left from him. I'm putting him at so close and not Hall of Fame just because I think that Chael Sonnen was an absolute beast on the mic. I think he was so marketable. I think he could shoot a promo like nobody else. There was no one like him at his time. Chael Sonnen kind of changed the game and nobody realizes it. And now he's still an analyst. He has his YouTube channel. It's successful. People love what he has to say. He's an intellectual. He's very well spoken. So I like the guy. I think he's I'm not going to say he's a class act, but he's definitely entertaining. And I think he's good for the sport. With that being said, I have him at so close. Leon Edwards, I'm going to actually put in the so close as well. I think Leon Edwards, his most notable wins obviously are Kamaru Usman, that head kick that knocked him out, and then ultimately the fight after he outclassed him. I'm okay with putting Leon Edwards at so close, but other than that, Leon Edwards for me hasn't done much. Leon Edwards has only beat Nate Diaz, and that's not impressive to me either because Nate Diaz has been out the door and he hasn't been a contender in over 10 years. What are we talking about here? So Leon Edwards, I think there's a lot to prove. I think he needs to take out Kobe Covington. Then we could get into the conversation of, are we Hall of Fame? Are we really one of these bad welterweights? He's not even a top 5 welterweight for me right now. And not right now. I'm saying of all time champions. No, I can name 5 better champion welterweights. Charles Oliveira, believe it or not, he's going to Hall of Fame. Why Charles Oliveira when we have these other champions right below him? Well, Charles Oliveira has been in the sport for 10 years. He has overcome so much adversity. He came in, kind of had a losing record at first. Then he comes up to the lightweight division, absolutely takes it by storm, and he's taken out the best of the division. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. This guy is the real deal, and I'm excited to see what he does against Islam Makhachev for the second time. He took that rough loss against him, but I think he's going to come back hungry. He also beat Beneil Dariush recently. Charles Oliveira is a real deal, man, and one of the best lightweights to ever live, and I'm comfortable saying that. Chuck Liddell, I think it's hypocritical for me to say Hall of Fame, but for what he did for the sport, I think it's good for him to be Hall of Fame. And yeah, I'm going to put Hall of Fame. As of now, he is a Hall of Famer. Chuck Liddell is literally a Hall of Famer. And I think it has to do with his era. Obviously, when we talk about skill set, talent as a mixed martial artist, the comparison's not fair to today's day and age. You're going to look at the so close guys and you're going to say they're way better than Chuck Liddell. But Chuck Liddell was a real pioneer for the sport. He had one of the best rivalries of all time against Tito Ortiz. His mohawk was a whole thing. The Iceman, come on. This guy's as entertaining as they come, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, just like Alistair Overeem. These guys are legends of the sport. Jeremy Stevens. The reason I left Jeremy Stevens on here, so much fun. This is the guy that in the press conference with Conor McGregor says, I'm the hardest hitting lightweight out there. And then Conor McGregor, of course, with the iconic line, the one punch knockout line, he turns around and he just says, who the fuck is that guy? Well, I'm going to put him right next to Dennis Siver, 2 guys that Conor McGregor kind of threw the shit. Who the fuck is that guy? With all respect to him, I really think he belongs in Sorry Pal. I'm putting him in Who the fuck is that guy just because of the Conor McGregor thing. Jeremy Stevens was an actual contender for a little bit. He was a hard hitter and he was a problem. Conor McGregor definitely knew who he was. But with that being said, for the sake of this video and for the sake of the joke, Jeremy Stevens is all the way at the bottom. Mark Hunt, I'm putting at decent. I think he should deserve a little more respect, but again, look at the criteria. Mark Hunt is responsible for some of the best fights you'll ever see. If you're new to the UFC, if you don't know who half of these guys are, go look up a Mark Hunt fight so you can see how much fun it is. One of the most exciting heavyweights to ever live, one of the most powerful heavyweights to ever live, an old school Derek Lewis type of guy, just a hard hitter in there to brawl. He was a lot of fun to watch. With that being said, I'm going to put him at decent. Realistically, he is a Hall of Famer, but again, with this criteria and how I have it set out, Mark Hunt sits comfortably next to Bobby Green, Hamzat, and Romero. And again, this guy's, had a whole career. These guys haven't finished theirs. Ciryl Gane, I'm going to also put at decent. Ciryl Gane hasn't done enough for me. 2 title shots, 2 title losses, lost to Francis and lost to John Jones. Yes, he beat Tai Tuivasa, but when we start looking at his record, he's a very technical heavyweight. Moves great, a lot of potential, but we're just missing that it factor, that securing the belt, beating someone who's really up there in elite. Yes, you beat Tai Tuivasa, but other than that, what are we going to say about Ciryl Gane? I don't think there's much to talk about. So Ciryl Gane, I'm going to leave him at decent. I think it's safe to say. Cody Garbrandt, I'm going to give some respect to him, and I'm going to put him at so close. Cody Garbrandt beat one of the best bantamweights of all time, had a great up-and-coming career, became champion, but at the end of the day, with him, and the reason he never became Hall of Fame or never progressed to it is because he just completely conked out. The car ran out of gas, glass jaw, rough losses. The decline has been serious. He's not giving up on his dream, so I respect it. But if I were Cody Garbrandt's team, I'd say, hey, buddy, let's call it a day. And the same goes for Frankie Edgar. He might be somewhere around here, but when you start declining in that way, I think you got to call it. But some respect on his name, so close. One of the best boxers, in my opinion, in mixed martial arts history. Khabib Nurmagomedov, I'm going to give him the respect he deserves. I wish he would have lasted a little longer. Yes, 29-0. The 30 would have been nice. A few bigger names would have been nice as well. But you got to give Khabib Nurmagomedov credit for what he's done. He has beaten some legends and Hall of Famers. He did go undefeated, and he knew when to walk away, which a lot of guys don't. I can't name a fighter who's walked away at a better time than Khabib Nurmagomedov. Everyone pushes and really strains out their career as much as they can until they start declining, get knocked out, or they start hurting their legacy. Respect for Khabib for knowing when to walk away. He did so. It's a very honorable man, and yeah, with that, I have a legend of the sport. Colby Covington, I'm going to put him at so close. I think he has a lot of potential to be Hall of Famer. Him and Chael Sonnen have a lot in common. They're okay with being the villain. They could sell a fight. They could sell a promo. I like him. I think his mouth has gotten him opportunities, just like Tito Ortiz said about Chael Sonnen. It's the truth. He's fought in Kamaru Usman 2 times. Now he has a title shot against Leon Edwards. He's proven worthy. He's given everybody close fights when he loses, but I think this is his last chance. I think he needs to secure the belt this time around or not. We got to call it. They're not just going to keep giving you title shots. We're holding up a division, my friend. Conor McGregor, I have my own issues with Conor McGregor, 2-time champ, questionable fight choices with, the welterweight division, Nate Diaz, then getting a free lightweight shot, and then losing to Khabib and Dustin twice. So a lot of losses under his belt there at the end of his career. Do I hope he comes back? Of course. I want to see Conor McGregor fight again. I hope he fights for another 10 years. But he's a legend of the sport because of what he's done for the sport. I think a lot of people watching this video right now, or a lot of people who watch the UFC in general, would not be around if it wasn't for Conor McGregor. And I think we have to note that. Corey Sandhagen, I'm going to put Corey Sandhagen at decent right now. And again, that's one of those guys who has crazy potential, crazy potential. And I think he's really in his prime, and I think he's going to get a title shot soon enough. His last couple performances have been really impressive. He freaking owned Cheeto Vera. Cheeto Vera's getting a title shot now. I think they're just trying to sell that for Sean O'Malley. But Sandhagen's very deserving of a title shot. I think he's up next, and I think he gives Sean O'Malley a really tough fight stylistically. So let's see what Sandhagen does. As soon as he secures the belt, he moves up in tier. Dan Hooker, I'm going to put it decent as well. Very fun fighter. Very active guy. He has his new look now. I just think he's a fun guy who brawls. Hasn't done enough for me. I think he's a memorable guy in real time. I think maybe in 10 years, people don't really think about Dan Hooker too much. But again, there's still some potential. He's still fighting, and he only gets better every time he steps into the octagon. A lot of respect for him. I think he's a lot of fun. Michael Chiesa, Michael Chiesa, just because he's an analyst now, he was very decent at one point. I'm going to leave him at decent. I don't think he was so close or a Hall of Famer. I like him more as an analyst than I did as a fighter. He had some battles with injuries and weight classes, but I don't think there's anything too special to note, especially with the criteria I've laid out with these fighters. I think everybody's exactly where they need to be in Michael Chiesa. It'd be disrespectful to a lot of fighters if I put him at so close. Michael Chandler, I'm going to put at so close just because of his career prior to the UFC. Walks into the UFC, and I got to say, that's one of the most entertaining men we have in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I mean, he might get a free shot against Conor McGregor just because he walks in, and I hate to say it, walks in without an IQ. He just goes into brawl and bang it out. That's what we want to see. He's exciting. He's athletic. He's been a champion in a different promotion. I think Michael Chandler's not done. I don't think he's going to go on any sort of title run. Maybe when it's said and done, he's a Hall of Famer. But for now, I like him at so close. DC's a Hall of Famer. Double champ, light heavyweight division. He beats the best heavyweight of all time, Stipe, when he moves up. I mean, you can't argue that this guy is so good. And now as an analyst, I mean, I love DC. I think DC is debatably a legend. Maybe I did him a disservice, but he's done so much for the sport as well. Unfortunately, he did have his kryptonite. If he did have a win over John Jones, I would put him as a legend. He didn't. Again, John Jones was his kryptonite. I think it's safe to say the double champ stays at Hall of Fame. Nate Diaz, I'm putting at Hall of Fame, but you have to understand. Actually, no. Putting him at so close. I think everybody loves Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is Nate Diaz. It's that simple. It's Stockton. He's been around for so long, been around for different eras of mixed martial arts, contended very well in each era. I don't think he was actually champion material at any point in his career. He gave people really good fights. But other than that, I mean, Nate Diaz, there's not much to know other than he's a fan favorite. We like his style. We like his shit talking. He's Nate Diaz. But that's it. So I'm going to put him at so close. Again, guys, these people, everybody in so close will end up in the UFC Hall of Fame. But in my criteria, they're not Hall of Fame. It's that tier. Darren Till, the little boy who couldn't. I'm going to say sorry, pal. Darren Till had so much hype and everyone was so freaking excited about Darren Till, and Darren Till just came up, boom, and shat the bed. I think Jorge Masvidal ended that poor man's career with that knockout. And again, I was excited about him. I thought a lot of people loved him. He had a country behind him, but he shat the bed, and now he's not even in the UFC. I think in 5 years, most people don't even know who Darren Till is unless you were watching these last few years. So, yeah, Darren Till, sorry. I put you next to Brendan Schaub and Lobov. You had a lot of potential, though. That kid, I mean, they wanted him to be a Hall of Famer, but he's parked right there. Derek Lewis. I'm putting Derek Lewis under decent. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he's very likable, a fan favorite. My balls was hot, a lot of knockout power. Some of the best knockouts you've ever seen and the most knockouts you've seen in the UFC. So maybe you know what? Let's rank up Derek Lewis. I think a little respect just because of the stats. Derek Lewis, I'm going to put him at so close. Real deal, Holyfield. Yeah. Dominic Cruz, man, I guess I have to put him at... No, I could put Dominic Cruz right here. He's an analyst. I think he's the best bantamweight to ever live. He's done a lot for the sport as well. He still sticks around. He's been around multiple eras. He's taken a few tough losses in the last few years, but he's an unorthodox fighter. Great analyst, very intelligent guy. I think in his time, there was no one who could beat him. And yeah, I'm okay with him being at Hall of Fame. Maybe I'm being a little biased right now. Dominic Reyes. Oh, my God. I'll put him at decent, just out of a little bit of respect. I mean, that guy almost beat John Jones, and I think that's why I'm putting him at decent. It's debated that he did beat John Jones. In my opinion, no, he didn't. But, man, what a decline. And just like I said about Frankie Edgar and Cody Garbrandt, man, there's a time to walk away, and if his coaches loved him, they'd have him walk away. He's taken some rough losses, and I think just like Tony Ferguson as well, leaving him in this sport just is a huge disservice to him, and I hope his team just kind of calls it quits for him, man. He doesn't deserve that CTE he's getting. Cowboy Cerrone, in reality, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he has the most bonuses. He was around for so long, many eras. He was that guy that would fight 2 weeks apart when Dana White called him. Yes, he was kind of a gatekeeper, but just respect to him. He did so much for the sport, and he fought some of the toughest guys there ever been. And I think he's just too much of a fan favorite and made such a difference in the sport and the fan base that I cannot put him at Hall of Fame, especially when I put Dominic Cruz up there. Patty Pimblett, I'm going to sorry, pal. I mean, you've not done nothing. You beat Jordan Levitt You had a close win against Jared Gordon. That was really a robbery. You're going to fight Tony Ferguson. I think we'll see what happens with Paddy Pimblett. I think he's kind of the same little hype train, and I think the train's going to run out of gas, man. I don't think there's much left in Paddy Pimblett's career with serious contenders. I want to see him fight someone who's ranked. I'm kind of bored about the whole hype thing. Like, yeah, bro, we can't give these guys hype when they're not performing, and his last 2 performances, I'm not impressed. If you're gonna give some guy that hype, he better follow through with it. Dustin Poirier. I'm putting Dustin Poirier at Hall of Fame, and I'm completely biased. I love Dustin Poirier. He literally has one of the best resumes of all time. I don't care what you say. Let me hear it in the comments. He was interim champ, never champ. I think if he was champ and had a few defenses, maybe I'd even see him as a legend. Not really. I think he's between Hall of Fame and so close. But I'm going to put him at Hall of Fame. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm kind of evening out the tiers, and I'm okay with him being above a lot of those guys down there. But again, just because I put him up there, it's kind of disrespectful to some of the guys that's so close, but it is what it is. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, still kicking. I'm going to put him at so close. I mean, that guy's such a class act. Authentic, the karate style. A lot of fun to watch. I freaking love the guy. That's why I put him at so close. I don't think he's going to be contending for a belt. If this was only striking, if he was at karate combat, he'd be a champion for 15 years. But at the end of the day, this is mixed martial arts, so there's nothing more to say. Eddie Alvarez, I'm going to put him at so close as well. I'm not a fan of Eddie Alvarez. I think he was kind of boring. He became champion in an era where I think there was not a lack of talent, but I don't know. There was almost like this plateau in that division. I don't think he was that marketable. I'm not so excited about him. I like him more in BKFC. That's all I have to say about him. Edson Barboza, I'm going to go to so close as well. Edson Barboza's been around for freaking years. He has the coolest spinning wheel kick you ever see. He's fought some killers. And yeah, he's always been a contender. Yes, always a bridesmaid, never the bride. But with that being said, I think he really is a real Hall of Famer. But I'm going to put him there at so close. Forrest Griffin, I have to do the same. If it wasn't for Forrest Griffin, I think that the UFC doesn't even make it. The fight between him and Stephen Bonner, is actually what catapults the UFC into what it is today after the Ultimate Fighter Season 1. Him and Bonner are responsible for what we watched today, man. So I got to give him the respect he deserves. Yeah, took some tough losses, but he was in a tough era in the light heavyweight division. It was absolutely stacked. Tyron Woodley, for me, top 3 welterweight of all time. There was no one who could beat him in his time. Kamaru Usman comes out and out wrestles him. Another one who had quite the decline, didn't know when to walk away. It's a shame. It did stain his legacy. I'm going to put him at so close, but Tyron Woodley is a legend of the sport. Again, when we talk about him, I'll never forget who Tyron Woodley is. We will be talking about him from years to come, but for me, he's not the Hall of Famer. And I guess now we're getting a little hypocritical because I have Cowboy and Poirier and Cruz over him. So I see the flaw there. So you know what? I'm actually going to change. I'm going to put Tyron Woodley at the Hall of Fame. And you know, we're talking about career. This is all focused mostly on career. Francis Ngannou, I would have put him at so close in UFC. After the boxing fight, I think he's made such a name for himself. I think he actually goes into the Hall of Fame in general of combat sports. I mean, he just kept up with Tyson Fury. He got more publicity after leaving the UFC than he did during the UFC run. He had a great run. He beat Cyril Gane. He's had a few tough fights in the UFC. He took out Alistair Overeem. For me, I wasn't a huge fan of him. I think there was more for him to do in the UFC, but he left early. But again, what he's doing now in combat sports, you can't deny. In combat sports, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and I think you got to respect it. Frankie Edgar, again, Hall of Famer. Because of his decline, I think so close. One of the guys who didn't know how to walk away, but again, one of the legends, one of the pioneers. GSP, we ran into another legend. There it is. So look at that top 5. GSP, McGregor, Khabib, Johnson, Silva. League of their own, man. It's safe to say one of the best fighters of all time, best IQ. And for me, one of the things I love about George St. Pierre is that he's such a class act. You know, his shit talking consisted of him walking into the octagon after a fight and saying, "I am not impressed by your performance." Like that. That's just him. You know what I mean? And I think he's a really likable guy. I think he has a lot of knowledge, and psychologically, I think there was no one who could beat him. Gilbert Burns, I'm putting it so close. Again, a lot of potential. I love the guy. A lot of respect. The last year he took on like 3 or 4 fights within like a 6 month period. Unfortunately, he lost to Bilal Muhammad. That's gonna slow him down. But again, a real contender in the welterweight division. Do I think he'll ever be champion? No. But again, I love the guy. I'm trying to move really quick now, guys, because I see some people I want to get through, but we're finishing up. All right, Glover Teixeira. I'm gonna put him in the Hall of Fame. He has fought in multiple eras as well. He's beat some of the best there ever is. He's fought some of the best there ever is, and ultimately becomes champ as a 40-year-old. Now he's coaching Alex Pereira, a guy with a lot of knowledge for the sport. Glover Teixeira. I mean, this guy's real deal. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I love the guy. Henry Cejudo stands close. Double champ status. He was an Olympian. I don't think there's anybody with higher fight IQ than Henry Cejudo. I think it's so impressive watching him break down fights. I rather watch him break down fights than DC, and I respect DC breaking down fights a lot. His knowledge for the game, wrestling, striking, all of mixed martial arts is just so in depth. I think you could learn so much from just watching a quick snippet of his videos. But again, he beat one of the best of all times, Demetrius Johnson. He was a double champ. You got to give him credit. Beat TJ Dillashaw. It is what it is. Islam Makhachev, definitely on the road to being Hall of Fame, but for now I'm going to put so close. Beat Charles Oliveira, beat Volk twice. I think he's going to have a more impressive career than Khabib. Maybe after he retires, that gives him a little more value and I shoot him up. Yes, I mean, I think he's a real deal. I think I could already probably justify Hall of Fame. But for now, I'm putting him so close because he's still kind of there, defending his belt. If he defends it against Charles again, beats like Dariush or another lightweight contender, I mean, he just shoots through here. John Blachowicz, I'll have John Blachowicz at so close as well. Polish power. He lost to Alex Pereira. Whack fight against Magomed Ankalaev. So much to do. You know, he became champion, a title defender too. He beat Izzy, but I don't know. I think there's nothing too notable about the Polish power in his career other than when he became champ. There's more for him to do. I hope he gets it done. He's still fighting, but not much to say about him. Cannonier, I'm going to put him at decent right now. Might seem a little disrespectful. He did beat our current champion, Sean Strickland. I think he should get a title shot. I think he should have gotten the title shot again before Sean Strickland because he beat Sean Strickland right before that fight. But he'll be back up there. I think he's a real deal. He's getting older, but he improves every time he walks into the octagon. I think he has a very good chance of becoming champion, and if he does, he shoots up these tiers. Jiri Prochazka, I'm going to put so close. I think the guy's unorthodox, class act, becomes champion, beat Glover Teixeira, which is a legend. Great fight against Alex Pereira. He could have easily won that. I think he comes back. Jiri Prochazka, in my eyes, takes the belt back soon enough. I think he comes back and he fights the winner of Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira, and I think he gets that belt back. I think he's very good, and I think he's going to be in the UFC for a bit. John Jones, legend. Best mixed martial artist of all time, youngest champion. He has the best resume of all time. Vitor Belfort, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, Dominic Reyes. You know, obviously he sent them declining after that. He beat DC twice, Anthony Smith. I mean, this guy's beat anybody and anybody who's ever been relevant in the sport, and especially back then when all the light he beat Shogun Rule. All the light heavyweights were just fucking killers. He came in, and John Jones is the best mixed martial artist of all time. I'll debate that with anybody. Jorge Masvidal, I love him. I'm going to put him at so close just because I have a lot of respect for the guy. He's from Miami, street fighter. Unfortunately, he was really that close. I mean, he fought for the title twice against Usman, lost both times. He did beat Nate Diaz. He had the fight against Kobe. You know, fought Burns. He's fought real deal contenders, but he has the best highlight reel in the last decade. I think there's a gap between him and the most elite there are in that division. But you know what? He set himself up well. He was able to secure that knockout. He beat Darren Till as well. And beating Nate Diaz, I mean, he proved himself. So they gave him the opportunities. He couldn't capitalize. I leave him at so close. Jose Aldo's a Hall of Famer. I don't care what you say. Debatably the best featherweight of all time. That's a debate we could have on a different day. Jose Aldo's the real deal. If you don't think so, I don't know what to tell you. It's that simple. Justin Gaethje, I'm leaving him at so close right now. BMF belt, beat Dustin Poirier. He's given us some of the best fights in the lightweight division. Unfortunately, when he fought for the belt, he lost it. He's going to get a title soon enough. And he has a good chance. I mean, he's a great striker. I think if he becomes champ, I think he catapults to Hall of Fame. I think, again, disrespectful to have Poirier on top of him, but Poirier's had a more extensive career. Justin Gaethje's a freaking problem. And Justin Gaethje will finish in the Hall of Fame, but for now, as I see it, it's a very so close type of guy. A few more guys. Kamaru Usman, I'm putting him in the Hall of Fame. Debatably one of the best welterweights of all time. Him, George, Tyron Woodley, best three. If he would have beat Leon Edwards in that second fight, and then now he fights again and gets a W, I think, you know, he secures his spot as like the second best welterweight of all time. But just because he fought a lot of guys twice. He fought Masvidal twice, Covington twice, Leon Edwards 3 times. We're recycling a lot of the same guys, and I think you lose a little bit of credibility in your resume when we're just recycling the same people rather than you diversifying your portfolio like John Jones, who took out anybody and everybody. So I think that's what stops Usman from being the best welterweight of all time. Kelvin Gastelum, I'm putting him at so close. This mother effer gave Adesanya his toughest fight besides Alex Pereira and Sean Strickland. In my opinion, he should have never been a middleweight. This guy is definitely a welterweight. He's just very out of shape, but he's a real deal, man. He could brawl. He's going to keep coming at you. He overcomes adversity. I just think he's small for his division, but the guy's still kicking. He's very good. So close. I don't think he'll ever be champion, but definitely somebody I'm going to remember. Robert Whittaker. I'm going to put Robert Whittaker at so close. I think he's up there, probably top 5 middleweight of all time. A lot of respect, class act. Unfortunately, Adesanya had his number. Adesanya is a kryptonite. If Adesanya didn't exist, Whittaker's champion for a while. With that being said, I'm putting him at so close. You could justify Hall of Fame, but I'm going to leave him comfortably at so close with some of the justification I have from the other people. Stipe, Hall of Fame, best heavyweight of all time. I think that's safe to say. I don't think we could argue it. I want to see him come back. I'm not too interested in that fight between him and John Jones. I think we're kind of just trying to sell a fight. I'm not curious about it. He's old. I think he should retire, just step away. But it is what it is. Credit where it's due. That guy beat DC. Very dominant heavyweight. He beat Francis Ngannou, so it is what it is. Guys, with that being said, I'm going to end it. There's so many guys left and so many guys I want to talk about. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be here for a freaking hour doing this. What I want you to do for me is comment. Let me know how dumb you think you are or how genius I am. Speaking about the UFC tier list. And of course, let me know what you want to see next, guys. I love when you guys tell me what you love seeing in the content, what you want to hear about, or if there's any tier list that interests you for me to do, like striking, legends, champions, who's best at jiu-jitsu, popularity, whatever it is. Let me know, guys. I'm happy to do it. And MMA Casual out of here.